Rick, hey there. I have BPD or CPTSD, severe abandonment, but I recovered. I found sense of self by saying, doing what I believe, and I started trusting myself more. Well, good for you. And you said, then I've been with a BPD, oh no, BPD ex-girlfriend who observed my face when I was sad, but I was dealing with it in my head. And she started devaluing me and distanced and then played with my triggers. Well, just know, Rick, I'm sorry to hear what she did, but when she did what she did, it's not her responsibility how you got triggered, if that makes any sense. There's where your responsibility kicks back in. But what she did was not excusable. But when you feel like she's playing with your triggers, maybe she absolutely is, but you're responsible to take care of your triggers. So, that's not the good news, is it? But then you said, and I had lost control and she disappeared and triggered my trauma, and she triggered her abandonment, now wants to be alone. With all due respect, Rick, you haven't recovered from BPD, but you might have done a lot of darn work. And you might, have found yourself, like, I'm not here to contradict you, but recovery means that we don't experience the same things, but I'm not saying you haven't done a lot of work. And it sounds like her wanting to be alone should be a cue for you that this isn't healthy for you either. Like, this is not healthy for either of you. Sounds like a trauma bond. And Alice said, I told her I would call the Child Protection Services, but she said she would call the cops and charge me with, yes, insert horrible accusation, I can imagine. I have backed down for now and not inflaming the situation and having our child put in foster care. Wow. Well, I mean, I'm so sorry, Al, because you're having to deal with so much because of her abuse and poor behavior. It's like, and then some. Yes, you see, these are the women diagnosed with BPD. Okay, but these are the women that aren't that are more severely impacted and or they need to be diagnosed with something else, because this is just ridiculously horrible abuse that she's perpetrating against you. And of course, I don't know how old your child is, but even if they're an infant, this is going to affect them. And if they're old enough to know that you're not there and what the heck is mommy doing, um God, she's not even thinking about your child, really, to tell you the truth, unfortunately. Oh, I hear you, Rick. Like, I'm just saying that it sounds like you might just have some more work to do, but also that you need to get out of the unhealthy relationship, but that you may have done a lot of work. I hear you. I'm not trying to validate that at all. And then you said that you took accountability and you took responsibility. Excellent, because that does mean that you've done a lot of substantial work. It's just when you said about the triggered response and she's playing with your triggers, you have to make sure you take responsibility for that as well. But the other thing is to really take the utmost responsibility you can for yourself, not because you had or you're somewhere in BPD recovery, but just because it's a trauma bond and it's probably the codependency that you're sharing with her more even right now than however BPD she is versus you. I mean that with all due respect. But it's not a healthy relationship. People can heal and recover from BPD absolutely and not be triggered anymore the way they were before. So that suggests a little work to do there, Rick. But on the codependency aspect of that, if people have codependency and they are, whether BPD as well or not, and then you're still around a toxic person, that can pull out more of a codependent response, which could meet with a triggered, I don't know if it's a BPD response or not. I mean, only you know that. But two people with BPD or some, like, I think, Rick, what I hear from you is that you're really working hard, that you take responsibility and accountability, that you're growing, that you're in a process. So I don't want to like invalidate you in any way. And you said that she kept doubting me, and I would wonder why. Okay, but it sounds like there's a trigger there, some things still to work on. And I didn't know what BPD. Sorry, don't know what you mean by that. Oh, hey there. You said Just got discarded by my BPD boyfriend again. So sorry to hear that. He said the feelings are too much for him to take. We're in long distance relationship, and one trigger for him is my ex from 7 years ago. And then he plays scenarios. Well, right. And people untreated with BPD don't know themselves and don't know how to trust themselves and can't trust others. Whatever scenarios he's running about your ex from 7 years ago certainly aren't realistic or have no validity. But because if he's untreated with BPD, he's going to run those scenarios. And if this is the second time that he discarded you, it's probably time to consider the fact that this isn't going to work. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Rick. Was till this month. Because, you may have done a great job, come a long way in BPD recovery. I don't want to, I don't know. But the triggered reaction you're describing, even though you take responsibility and accountability, excellent, would just suggest you might have a little more work to do, is all I'm saying. But being with another person with BPD, if I read correctly your other comment, not healthy for you, no matter where you are in your BPD recovery. Not healthy. And Elle said, so he keeps playing out scenarios of your ex and you, and it drives him crazy and causes him to split. My struggle now is to stop idealizing our relationship. Yeah, because obviously it's not what you hoped it would be, right? And it doesn't sound like he's very capable of, like, 7 years ago, an ex. That's very severe. To be able to run scenarios or be triggered and behave like that. If it wasn't that, it would be something else, I hate to tell you. And I think when you said that you need to stop idealizing your relationship, I think really that's the cognitive dissonance, right? Of who you thought he was or who he seemed to be in the beginning. It's starting to let go of that and see him for who he is today and how he's behaving now, so that you can definitely not. Yeah, you got to see what really is, and that's painful and difficult and often heartbreaking for people, to put it mildly. And then it's still difficult to untangle from these relationships and what are essentially trauma bonds. Al, after my ex BPD ghosted and cheated out of the blue, you said, oh, before the BPD diagnosis. She claimed she had no recollection of the incident. Is this possible? When she cheated and go, well, you know what? I can't say as it's 100% impossible, but I would say it's highly improbable. Why do I say that? Because there's dissociation in BPD, and you said I thought it was a psychotic breakdown. Well, there's a possibility that if she has some psychotic breaks, there's that possibility, in which case maybe she wouldn't remember. But kind of sounds a little convenient, doesn't it, that she would not remember cheating on you with somebody? Doesn't make sense, really. So there can be psychotic breaks, but not everybody with BPD has psychotic breaks. For what the label of BPD that I got handed, and what I may or may not share more publicly about, but everything I say is true as a lens of my understanding, and in revisionist history now I understand more, but I certainly never had a psychotic break. I think with dissociation, I think a lot of times when people with BPD cheat, they don't all cheat, but a lot of them cheat. People without BPD cheat too, just keeping it real. It's more likely that they're bullshitting you than that they don't remember. So that's the best I can do with that, really. It's more likely that they're abjectly lying, because they'll do anything to not take personal responsibility, because they can't. They don't know how to take personal responsibility, which I'm not excusing either. But this, I don't remember. I don't remember the conversation. Oh, I cheated on you and I ghosted you. No, I don't remember that either. No, and if she's really diagnosed with BP and that's what it is, that is got a high probability of not being true. And then you said cheated. Oh, cheated multiple times. Oh, Al, it's a cop out. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I don't 100%, because I don't know her, right? But multiple times, it's a cop out. Yeah, it's a total bullshit, bull-faced lie to manipulate you into just taking her back, and like with no accountability, and she takes no responsibility. She's out there. I mean, now she's taking off with your kid. Now you're sharing this like she's really, oh. Well, and then okay, here it comes, and this is where there's a lot of mix-up happening with psychiatry and or some psychologists. You said the psychologist said she might have DID, dissociative identity disorder, formerly called multiple personality disorder. By the way, it's very intriguing why they changed the name. The thing about DID, the YouTuber Vaknin, don't go there. Don't believe what he's saying because he's not correct. He made bold statements about this and people with BPD having alters and all this kind of bullshit. I'm just speaking frankly tonight. And then last video I saw where he barely touched on it, he was walking it back. So he's the only one out there saying that I'm aware of. And he's not trustworthy because he's a narcopath. So whether he's uber smart or pulling people's chain for supply or whether he's always honest or not, I don't know. But so what I would say about a psychologist saying she might have DID, it's more likely that the psychologist's opinion is formulated on what you might have told him. I don't know because I don't know the circumstance. Because if she's reporting that she doesn't remember multiple times cheating, etc., then she's trying to kind of dupe you potentially into thinking. She's trying to say, well, I don't know, because maybe I split and it was an oath. Within BPD, there is no dissociation beyond a level to where there's any alters whatsoever. And DID is exceedingly rare. There was one famous case of a person with multiple personality disorder, it was called at the time, that's been absolutely debunked as untrue. I'm not sure if it was Sybil or another one, so I don't want to say for sure. But DID is exceedingly rare to the point where many clinicians don't even believe it's real. Okay? So I don't know what to believe, but it's exceedingly rare and it's unlikely in her case. And Al said this was the only reason I took her back. I can understand that totally. Because you didn't know. You can't know what you don't know. I'm so sorry, Al. Oh my God. I hope you will book a session. I'm really so sorry. I mean that. And I hope you know that. And then you said it was the ruse of DID and psychotic breakdown and no recollection that let me take her back. Oh, I'm sorry. And then you said you feel like a chump. Oh, God, Al. Just know you're not a chump because you didn't know. You couldn't know. I'm so sorry. And then you said all that. Al, man, I feel for you. I think what you need to do right now, Al, personally, is I hope you're deep breathing while you're crying. I'm so sorry. Because, this is classic and outrageous but it's more severe than the average, but it is borderline personality disorder abuse. Clearly, this woman bullshitted you, but you didn't know that, right? You didn't know that. Oh, Northern Aquatics from Sweden up there said earlier, damn, you're wise. Well, thank you for that if that was for me. I just do the best I can. Thank you, Car Girl. So anyway, Al, yeah, what you need to do right now for yourself, I hope you're deep breathing. You're realizing something that maybe you suspected, but you didn't know, you couldn't know, so you gave her the benefit of the doubt. And hey, that was you doing the best you could. And now you know more and you didn't know. And you said, my gut kind of knew. Yeah, I hear you. Because these are trauma bonds, these relationships. And I'm sure your gut did kind of know. But many people will, and I work with clients all the time, and I used to ignore gut instincts a lot too. I think lots of people do that. We have to be very careful not to do that. But, sometimes we're going to do that. And what I wanted to say, Al, is please don't be hard on yourself. Please don't be judging yourself on top of all that you're already going through. Because you did the best you could with what you knew then, even though, like you said, your gut was kind of, hey, sounds a little. But some people with BPD, my God, there is no end to their lying and there is no end to the abuse. And I'm just, again, really feeling for you. Oh, thank you, Northern Aquatic Sweden. That's very kind of you. Hey there, Kurt. Oh, it's good morning where you are. Al, as a codependent, I gave it to her. Oh, you are golden, thank you. Well, Al, I do feel so much for you, and I'll very much look forward to talking with you and helping any way I can if you book a session. Rick, the good thing to the relationship was that I let her be herself. I just let myself be myself. But when I wanted intimacy, I would ask, and whatever her answer, it was okay, only got bad when she got self-centered and neglected me. So there's always a good part to these relationships, right? And then there's always the opposite part. And really, you have to just think about that, how can I put it? That inconsistency, right? That incongruence. It can be really good, it can be really horrible. It's probably the biggest red flag for it's not working out and it's not healthy. But you have to make your own choices. Kurt, the mirroring felt and looked so real. That's what messes me up. For 7 years we were inseparable in all aspects of life. How could someone just throw love away as if it never was? You know, Kurt, the really bad news about that is, for her it really never was. So you might have experienced some wonderful things with her, obviously as you described, but it's people with BPD, and until unless really significantly treated to almost the point of healing and recovery, which is so possible, so many people don't choose it. They really can't love. And when I say that, so maybe I need to qualify that a little bit more in this context, that her love might have seemed pretty consistent or like love, but it wasn't healthy, adult. I don't know if there was some mutuality and some reciprocity, but if this is a case, it probably means that, and for 7 years you were inseparable, then she might be a quiet borderline to begin with. So she might have had stuff going on inside, and maybe you didn't know about that. That's possible. And the other thing is that at some point she just had that more severe trigger or whatever happened for her, which I'm not justifying, that was, the split to devaluation, and then she's just gone. But I think it's hard to say in a situation, but I've worked with many clients where they've been in marriages 25, 30 years, and there might have been some ups and downs, but in life you're going to have ups and downs too. And they're largely people, they were largely men with well, they had a few men with wives. I mean, wives, women with husbands. I'll get it. Don't worry. But yeah, sometimes relationships can be more longer term, and people is usually with a quiet borderline. And then people, so not a lot is noticed, or there's just a little bit of ups and downs, don't seem that unusual. And they really keep mirroring and they really keep idealizing more than devaluing, and they internalize that approach avoidance struggle. And maybe they don't silent treatment because they're all the same. This is the other thing. They're just not all the same, as I keep saying. So sometimes this happens in long-term relationships, and then all of a sudden that kind of split to devaluation happens, and then you have to ask, like, how can somebody just click off love? It's because they really don't have the capacity for healthy love in the first place, to one degree or another. And Rick said she was BPD codependent. Okay, sounds like she still is. And she made herself depressed. Well, whether she made herself or she got depressed, whichever, she's responsible for that, right? Like in terms of not acting it out at you. And now, thanks, watching from Philippines. Oh, cool. Well, that's really interesting. That you're in the Philippines, but you're welcome. And Rick said, I feel like love to BPD is trust, trust in themselves to trust you. No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be, confrontational or anything. Oh, I look forward to talking to you, Al. I just want to say, to what you said there, Rick, that I feel like love to BPD is trust. No. People with BPD lost self, no sense of self, or if they progress a little bit, unstable sense of self until less a lot of significant treatment, which is really hard to measure, right? So there's no self trust. There's no self to trust, and they don't trust themselves, and therefore they can't trust others. When there is no coherence of self and no reference for self inside of self, with people with BPD untreated, then they can't trust others. They don't trust others. They don't know how to love others. They don't love self. You can't give to somebody else what you got no reference for inside yourself. So I just want to really, I'm not trying to get hard on you, Rick. I just want to say that the statement, I feel like love to BPD is trust, trust in themselves to trust you. No, it's exactly what people with BPD have no clue about until unless significantly treated and or recovered. And of that, I'm sure, because that's a fact, Jack. It really is a fact. Just working with clients with BPD using schema therapy, and you do the scores on the patterns, on the schemas. I have clients with BPD, not right now, but I have had in the past. They score like 97% in mistrust. That is more predominantly what's happening for people with untreated BPD. There's no trust in there. Kurt, married for 4 of the 7 and almost divorced now. Been no contact for about 3 months. I'm really sorry about that because I'm sure it's extremely painful. And 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 might, it depends on what happened in your relationship, which I don't expect you to divulge here on a live stream, whether there were more ups and downs than you realized or whether there was some things going on in between. But like you said, you were inseparable. And so whatever changed that, I mean, that's got to be heartbreaking. I feel for you. And being no contact for 3 months, but still after a relationship that was, married for 4 years of the 7, that's got to be so painful. And Rick said, I don't know what love is too. Yeah, so, you still have something to learn there, and lots of people do. And, oh, you added a laugh out loud with that. Okay. Because I'm not trying to give you a hard time, Rick. I'm just suggesting that you may have come a long way with BPD, but you have a little bit more work to do in spite of her BPD codependency. Because you need to know self strongly enough to be able to love self. And to be able to love self, you have to know a little bit about what does that love mean to begin with. Kurt, she got new supply 3 weeks after the discard and flaunting it all over social media. Very funny. Yeah, no, I get the sarcasm. I'm so sorry to hear that. And I mean, in this day and age, that there's so many downsides to the internet and social media, right? Upsides and the downsides, and the downsides really suck. I mean, in all kinds of ways, but especially for you in this situation, Kurt, because it might be really hard for you right now. But of course, hopefully, you're working toward blocking her, not watching her social media, because that's just really going to be like more painful. And Northern Aquatic Sweden said for you, Kurt, yeah, that he feels. I'm assuming I don't know, but he or she feels you too. Yeah, absolutely. Kurt, thank you very much, guys. Oh, you're welcome. And just, hope you're working with someone. I hope you're taking good care of yourself. And I don't know if codependency fits for you or not, but something for people to always look at, consider. And there is a healing and recovery journey to take, regardless of codependency or not, because I'm not somebody who's going to tell people what their reality is or that everybody has to be a codependent. Just more often than not, but I can't tell people what the reality is. That would be called gaslighting. And so, I'm going to have a lot more coming on BPD abuse, which has nothing to do with the earlier video, etc. I guess my videos are going to get slammed for a while again until somebody gets uberly bored or finds a life or whatever it is they need. But so yeah, at ajmahari.co is the new site, and there isn't much up there yet at all because it was cloned from ajmahari.ca. So there's a lot of stuff there that, so I apologize for that. And as soon as I can, I'm going to get more information up there. And depending on how unfriendly some people on YouTube want to make it right now, I'm not going anywhere. But yeah, maybe I'll be doing more on the website. So right now there isn't a lot to see at ajmahari.co, but keep it in mind. It's referenced under all my videos for when I will have more content up, because I specifically do have a section called BPD abuse, which I'm going to probably put this live stream under for sure as a start. And then because all of you, sorry for all the abuse that you're all going through from people with BPD, and I'm going to have a lot more information coming on that. And I'm not here to make a commercial. I will just add that I do have some ebooks available at ajmahari.com or phoenixrisingpublications.com. They are the same in both places. And Punishment and Revenge and Borderline Personality, and The Dilemma. Like, there's 2 or 3 books specifically were written for partners or exes, but the Punishment and Revenge book, some people at BPD have purchased it, but I think a lot of people could learn something about that might help. And somebody just purchased one today. Was what's it called again? Oh yeah, it's called Full Circle Lessons for Non-Borderlines, wherein I talk about what I know from the side of BPD that I experienced. I have in some of those books. Oh, there's another book over there. I don't know if it would help because I got to write some new ones, which I'm have underway. But now I'm getting more and more ideas. I could just do one on BPD abuse alone and not call it anything and not talk about anything else. But Punishment and Revenge are examples of BPD abuse, right? Not the only ones. And over there, I also have a book, ebook, BPD and Rage. There's an audio program, BPD and Rage Addiction. There's an audio program over there for loved ones, emotional dysregulation, how to deal with it yourself because of the reactivity to the borderline and how they break down your sense of self. Even, people with codependency who might have been just sort of not knowing a little part of self that well. So anyway, those are just some resources if people are interested, right? Al, water off a duck's back, AJ. Oh, yes, in terms of what I'm dealing with, yes. And Rab, screw the haters and trolls, AJ. We all love what you do. We all love what you do and are extremely grateful. Well, thank you for that, Rab. And can I just say, at the kind of wrapping up here, it's not about me. It's not about my ego. It's the channel and the algorithm and supporting the channel. So again, I'm just going to ask people to like videos that you like, subscribe. I'm sure most of you are, but subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and support the channel. It's been growing. It's grown over 2,000 in the last month and a half as I'm posting more and more videos that, sure, some people don't like, and some people outright hate me, and I know who some of them are, and I know why, and then there's others, and whatever. That's all fine and dandy. Like, totally, like you said, it is water off a duck's back. But some people say, oh, you mention it, so it must really be driving you nuts. No, I don't care what they think about me at all. And I chose to have the response in the video I did to the psycho dude, because I chose to take it on. I'm not afraid of confrontation. What happens every time I deal with being confronted, though, if I confront back, all the trolls come out. Everybody gets their, ego wounded, and everybody goes, oh, AJ's still borderline. But that's what, it is what it is. So, as if I can't assert myself, as if I can't confront something head on for the healthy person that I am. Anyway, I don't have to say more on it. But thank you for that, Rob. I like that. Yeah, screw the haters. Don't care about the haters. Haters, what do they gotta do? They gotta hate. Marvelous quality, don't you think? I wouldn't want it, thank you. Northern Aquatic, Sweden. I've been pushed away and lured back for 3 years now. I'm really sorry to hear that. Nice to get an in-depth explanation why. Heavy delusions and projection going on. Just found your channel. Very good stuff. Oh, well, I'm glad that you found it. See, this is why I need people to like and subscribe and support the channel. I hope it grows just a little bit bigger. I don't care one way or the other, except for people to find me in the algorithm will resonate with me. And to the vast majority of people that I am helpful to. So yeah, I'm glad you found the channel, and I'm sorry to hear what you're going through. And being pushed away and lured back, I hope you were starting to realize or watch more of my videos, because here's the deal. Here's the, from all the things I've said in videos in a snippet here, it's not going to change. It is what it is. You've seen it 3 times now. So if you want to engage a 4th try, just know it's going to end like the last 3. I can guarantee you that. Because they need treatment, and without significant treatment that takes years, they don't change. But with significant treatment and after years, they can change. But I don't recommend anybody holds up their life for that. Or, this idea that you can drag the person, or so many people with codependency still are thinking, well, if I can just get him or her into therapy. People are re-hoovering borderline X. I'm not, no judgment here about this. I have clients in various stages of these situations right now. I will help anybody with anything wherever they're at, because I don't tell people what to do. I just try to help people with whatever's happening for them, whatever their goals are. Some people's goals right now, getting back with the ex because they want to try again. Getting back with the ex because they want to have that talk and see if they'll go get therapy after, no matter how long the relationship was. I mean, no disrespect to anybody. I'm not talking about clients right now at all. But just people will go back with all these notions, all these ideas, all these wishes and desires that are absolutely kind of in a codependent framework or paradigm. Illusions is the best way I can put it. But until people know that, people have to come to an understanding to be able to change what they're doing and pursuing. And so some people are hoovering back, at reverse hoovering the ex to tell them again or to plead with them again to get therapy. And guess what? Even if that would work, and trust me, it doesn't work, but even if that would work, they would have to be in years of therapy before they're going to make, like, at least a few years before they're even going to start. Like, in DBT is a good start, but it's not a recovery modality. So with that, they might learn to symptom manage it a little bit better, but that's going to take a year or 2, and that doesn't happen for everybody who goes to DBT with BPD. So a lot of them flame out of that too. They don't want it. They just can't take any personal responsibility. So the idea that you can drag them into therapy, or that you should, like some people are trying, and God bless them, it's what they want to do, it's what they need to do, it's probably the only way they're going to work it out. Reverse hoovering the ex to try this. Well, even if you get them to go to therapy, and even if they're seriously going to engage therapy, which you can't tell, there's going to be no noticeable change for a significant year to 2 to more years time frame. More could be 3 to 5 years. So you see, codependents or people with BPD need to get out of that relationship, go no contact, take care of yourself, do your own healing. And if it involves codependency, that healing, family of origin work, etc., healing from the relationship. And then the person with BP, if they're in therapy, great. And they need to continue with that in their own process. But these relationships, there's too much damage done. Even if they go to therapy tomorrow, it's not going to change anything soon enough. And you can't repair all the abuse and all the damage that's already taken place. And Wayne, hey there. I watched your video last night on codependent distorted paradigm. It hit me pretty hard because it was all completely true. My hyper focus on her issues really has kept me from bettering my own self. Well, Wayne, thank you for that, and I'm glad that you watched it, or if that's the one I did in podcast, I don't remember. Well, no, there was that, and then there was the podcast one after that. But there's no way in those videos I mean to negate anything to do with the borderline's responsibility or how much people with BPD abuse. They're just not all the frickin' same. I have to keep saying because it's true. But you see, some of the videos I'm going to continue to do are going to hit people with codependency hard. And I'm sorry for that because it's not my intention. But my intention is to make an impact on people if I can in the ways I do try to, with respect and empathy, compassion, because people are stuck. And some people, it's a blessing, just a blessing, Wayne, that you were able to withstand that. It, really hit you hard, but if it helps you, then I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad you watched it, because that's what it's about. And now you can make new choices, and now you can start to think, about things that maybe you didn't think about in a certain way before, and you can really hopefully start to heal and take care of yourself. That's what it's all about. Al, my ex said she did DBT for 3 months and said she was cured. Al, your ex is at the top, I'm sure with a lot of other people, of being an extreme borderline liar. And you said I had no idea. She said she did DBT. She didn't need DBT anymore as she was cured. And you got that emoji there. Well, middle finger emoji would be better, because I mean, no, that's just absolute bullshit. That's crap. That's just her lying to you, unfortunately, man. I'm so sorry. Because, people can go to DBT for a year and they're still not cured. They can go to DBT for 2 years and they're still not cured. They can go to DBT and there's no need for cure. It's healing and recovery. But they can go to DBT for 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years and still not have achieved recovered, because it's not a recovery modality. It's a symptom management modality that can help people with suicidality. It can help people with self-harm. Eventually, it can help people, sometimes, not all does it work for, to really be able to manage things. But they need more than DBT therapy, because it's not a recovery modality. Hey there, Victor. Just stopped by to say hello. Hope you're all having a great night. Listen to AJ and focus on yourself. It's the only way to heal. Her advice is right even when it's hard to face the facts. Well, thank you for that, Victor. And I hope you're doing well. And hey, hi, you came by to say hello. And Kurt, could you say something about the new supply? He is the complete opposite to who I am, and she used to say she hates people like that. I know it's mirroring and the idealization phase, but radical. Well, yeah, and it is radical because it just shows you. That's a prime example of how she has no clue who she is, or what she wants, or what she values, or what she needs. Everything with her is very fleeting. So when she was with you, idealizing you, you were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And she said that, yeah, the complete opposite, who's now the greatest thing since sliced bread, to put it mildly. Um, well, now she's reversed that, because everything's black and white for them, but it doesn't mean anything about you. It says nothing about you. It says a ton about her. And you're saying supply, and if she has BPD, it really, they're not after supply like narcissists, but probably like a little fact that nobody cares about. Point being, though, um, he's the complete opposite. Yeah, well, they just monkey branch, and or after ghosting or the relationship rupture, however it ends, jump to the next person. Many of them monkey branch, though, like they've been on dating sites, etc. But again, it's not all. But the bottom line is they don't know who they want, what they value, what they need, because they have no self. So this is just proof of that. So she goes and chooses the opposite. But what you need to know is it doesn't define you. It doesn't say a damn thing about you. It's all about her and where she's at, and all that, the lack of self and etc. But she's responsible. She needs to take responsibility now that she's an adult who doesn't know herself, who's acting like a freaking 5-year-old. And so it is radical, and it is just the idealizing, mirroring. Oh, now this, you know what it is? It's the grass is greener. syndrome. Grass is greener on the other side because she really believes, erroneously as hell, that the reason she got to wherever she got to with you, whatever she felt inside, the triggers, etc., she really thinks you did that to her. But hear me, you did not do that to her. But she thinks you did. She believes that because that's the externalization factor. People with BP, they don't know it's inside of them. If they're untreated, they don't get it. And so now she's like, oh, well, and I've seen clients say this in front of me because I've done the odd joint sessions and they don't work. Even when somebody had between 3 to 5 years, it happened a few times. The person with BPD had been in some treatment. They still can't get past certain things because it just takes more work, or maybe they won't get there. But the bottom line is, I had a client once say about her. Sorry, I got bugs. I gotta get the air conditioner out of the window. Um, I had a client say in a joint session with her husband who'd had somewhere between 3 to 5 years of treatment for her BPD, and had come a long way, that what the contentious issue was, what her trigger was, that wasn't really, the poor guy couldn't do anything, to solve the problem because the problem wasn't with him, the problem was inside of her. But she didn't get that. And so at one point in the session, she turned to him. He was being very supportive and hearing a lot of harsh things. And she said, maybe I should just start over with somebody new. And they had children too. And she just said, maybe I should just find someone else. In other words, that was what I've seen from a lot of people with BP. They externalize everything out. Okay, that's happening from and since childhood, but that's just an explanation, not excusing anything. And then they think, well, it's you. They think when they split into value you, if it's the final time, they're at that point where they're so triggered and their emotions are going on and they don't know why because they're not they don't have a clue what's going on with them. So, oh, it has to be you because you're the closest person. So they really truly believe, erroneously and rather delusionally, that you're the cause of all that they're feeling right now that they can't stand. So run to the next person. Doesn't matter if he's the opposite, the same, a narcissist. I've had clients, who are quite wealthy and well off and responsible and have good jobs and etc. And when they get ghosted, the borderline ex goes with some drug addict who's practically living on the street. There's no rhyme or reason to the stuff except that they just believe that you are the problem. Clearly, that's not the truth. They have all this problem inside of them and then some. So they run to the next person because they think, well, it was his fault or her fault. So if I go with him or her, it'll be all different. It won't be. So just know it's not a reflection on you. Northern Aquatic Sweden said to Kurt, probably just monkey branching to the first she saw. Yeah, well, because they have desperation attached too. But again, no excuses here, just explanation. Oh, you were thinking the same thing, Kurt. Yes. And remember, it's not about you. I mean, you're obviously affected by it. I'm sure it's painful. But they always blame other because, well, the explanation is it starts in young childhood and it has to do with, what happens in childhood, the abandonment trauma, the attachment trauma, and that they have to externalize like just biologically as an infant. An infant has to externalize a mother's angry face or not having their needs met, etc. Affect synchrony, misattunement. And so that externalization starts young and it continues and it continues. But I'm just explaining it, not saying that they don't have the responsibility to go get treatment and change that. They absolutely do. And Al said, if not supply, what is it for the person with BPD? Well, technically, they just, though these days I'm not sure anymore. Really, the way they're behaving, many more are behaving than ever before. Do you know that 10 years ago on the internet, because I've been online since 1995, nobody was talking about ghosting. About 10 years, I'm just guessing. But prior to that, like 1995 through at least up until 2010, if not a little bit further, nobody ever said they were ghosted by a borderline. It was mostly people with a dilemma of I can't take this anymore. I don't know what to do. I still love her, but like this is horrible, and like I feel guilty. I gotta leave, but I don't. It was that dilemma. So you see, things have vastly changed in the last 10 years or so. And what does that fit with? Well, I think it's psychiatric medications plays a role in this, and why they're crazier than ever. And I don't mean crazy doesn't describe it, but and they're not getting treatment, and what BPD is today in many is way worse than it was in the past. So it's got to have something to do with psych meds, and it's got to also have something to do with social media. Because what's increased, well, they both increased in the last 10 to 15 years exponentially. Psych meds, how many people with BPD are on them, and the influence of social media. It's just, but okay, so when I say it's not really technically supply for a borderline, maybe that doesn't matter anymore, like I said. But basically, it might be morphing into it's not that different. But if I can I explain it a different way? Let me think for a second, because there used to be an explanation for it. I just don't know if it matters anymore. I think for a lot of people with BPD, because they're not all the same still, it's just believing that the person they're with, the partner, or the parent, or the sibling, or whatever relationship type, is the person that is creating what they're feeling inside, that they don't know what it is because it comes from early childhood. And then, so they jump out of desperation and their codependency and their inability to be alone. But mind you, you know what? I think maybe I'll just stop trying to give that explanation. How's that? Because because as I'm rethinking this as I'm talking about it, I don't think it is different than supply. It is still a little bit different than a narcissist aspect of supply, but essentially, no, I think really as everything is morphed and it's getting way worse, which is unquestionable. It's just I've been around long enough to be able to say that with authority. It's true. So with the fact that people with BPD, both men and women, but lots of women, not all, are definitely acting in ways that we didn't see them acting 10 years ago, I'll just concede to you. Never mind. There's probably no distinction. The only distinction I would make is they don't seek supply like a narcissist. They're seeking identity through the other. So there's a bit of a difference, but really, in terms of word usage, yes, I capitulate. I don't think it matters anymore. Victor, the only one to defeat the smear campaign is with live. Oh, I think you mean the only. Oh, you did say the only way. I read it wrong. Sorry. You said plus the only way to defeat the smear campaign is, if I could just, I can't. The type is too small. The window is too small. Where was I? The only way to defeat the smear campaign is with living your truth. Yes, well said. Don't let these people make you. Don't let these people make you like them. Oh, make you like them. I get it. So, in other words, don't end up acting and behaving and thinking the way they do. Yes. And then you said, I became like my ex until I started my healing process. Now I'm myself again. I meant 2 years up there, by the way, not 3. Oh, okay. Well, either way, it's still significant time, isn't it, Victor? And yes, what you're saying there is very true and well said. To not you need to firstly be living with your own truth. And yes, people lose sight of what is that, depending on how hurt and traumatized they've been by borderline abuse. Let me make that clear. And then you said, don't let them, in other words, don't let that borderline or BPDX or girlfriend or wife or soon to be ex wife, or you're not sure what's going on yet, don't let them make you like them. And there is, especially for people with codependency, there's gonna come a lot of reactivity in these relationships because they're crazy making, and that's the truth. And the other thing is because people stay too long and take too much, not take, but are being abused and thinking it's love. That's the trauma bond aspect of everything, which is only an explanation. Again, I'm not blaming anybody or anything. And so there is for some people more high reactivity than others. And when people are higher reactors, or you've been with a person longer, you get into more reactivity. Well, you're not really going to become like them, but you are going to become more unrecognizable to yourself because it's not really who you are. So just understand that that's part of the trauma. That, some people leave these relationships or are ghosted and they end up with a diagnosis of PTSD. So it can be all varying degrees of levels of horrible to, yes, absolute trauma. So definitely you won't feel like yourself. And like Victor says, until he was working in his own healing and recovery process, now he's starting to feel like himself, or he feels like himself again. Very true. And very important people think about that, because when you're just out of the relationship, just ghosted, just discarded, or what Al's going through, what others have been are going through now, it's definitely going to be you're going to need to heal. And then many people have codependency and need to heal that as well, because you will have lost whatever sense of self you had going in to one degree or another. Northern Aquatics, I feel like moving in here. I feel like moving in here, a big ass support group with good people. Thank you for that. And yes, everyone else. It's not just about me. Everyone else is very supportive, and that's important too. And what people share. And Al said, "There's a monster behind you." um, I don't know. Are you just joking, or did Jake get up and turn around because he's got a dog, Buster Soft? Different kind of Buster collar on right now. So I'm not sure what you're referring to. Um, but it might be my dog. He's not a monster. He's a neurotic sweetheart. Mostly Roddy, except for the back end, and he's having his share of troubles right now. Northern Aquatic said, "No, it's just another of her fans." Oh well, I never think of people as fans. I don't. That word isn't in my vocabulary anyway. But I know you guys are just joking. Probably Jake got up. I don't know, because he's in that Buster collar right now. Just getting over a hot spot. Has a thyroid issues. Being treated. Just finished 10 days of antibiotics twice a day. You know how hard it is to give like the world's. It was but like big pills, and make sure they get it. Oh, it's having to roll it in all kinds of different things, and then watch it. But he's gonna be stuck in the Buster collar when I can't watch him, like when my eyes can't be easily on him, like right now, because the hot spot's pretty much healed. But until the fur grows back, and I know for sure he's not going to start over, he gets freedom from it. But at night and such, he's got to have it on. And then, because I'm taking that's what you meant, I don't really know. And then Al said, we do take on their traits toxicity. Well, you get affected by it to an extreme degree that then you're losing yourself. And it's not really that you take on the traits, though, of BPD, because remember, those traits are human traits to begin with. So you start to get way out of balance, is what happens. And you start losing yourself, or people lose themselves to this. But that doesn't mean you can't find yourself again and get yourself back. But it's not really taking on their stuff. It's the reaction to their stuff. I think it's important to keep that separate, for people, because you're not becoming borderline. You're not even being infected, but you're being affected by it. But that's part of what needs to be healed afterwards, unfortunately, because that's so painful. And Kurt, that's the excuse my ex used after future faking with me up until the day she discarded me. She said I was a problem and she couldn't deal with my depression anymore. Guess I had no supply left. Well, you mean to someone like her, untreated, I take it, that you had no value left to her. Yeah, but that's to her, right? About her, not about you. Because it is just an excuse she was using. Absolutely. And by the way, Kurt, as you alluded to earlier, and Northern Aquatic said, as well as I did, it really sounds like she was definitely monkey branching you. Victor, I thought I was BPD, but there's no way. No, many people think that, but it's not the case. And you said, I have no issue in my life other than her. There you go. See? And I know who I am. But I admit I lost myself trying to rescue her because she damseled. I bought her truth. I like that. That's becoming a new phrase out there, isn't it? And then you said it takes distance to really get back to yourself, or yourselves. No contact is necessary. Right on, Victor. Agree 100%. And then you said, I got to the point where her treachery, devaluation, and her smears don't affect me. I'm really happy to hear that for you, Victor. Just because they say something, it doesn't mean it's true. Right on. It hurts they feel that way, but that's their way. And guess what? Maybe just a little bit further down the road, Victor, that part won't hurt anymore either. Because really, remember what other people think of me, or as you would say, what other people think of you, it's none of your business. And you know she doesn't know you, and you know who you are. And you said, but it hurts they feel that way. Oh, but it's their way to not take personal, yeah, well, they're always avoiding personal responsibility. Now, I have no problems not contacting my ex, but I still want to read his emails. Baseball, I hear you. It takes time and it's difficult. But as you're working toward, know that you're working toward that it will be best for you to block the email, send it to the spam folder, or change your email if you have to. I don't want to say when you're ready. I would say as soon as you think you can, because I don't think that people who are waiting to feel ready can ever really feel ready. So that's kind of a vicious circle there, maybe. But lots of people are in your position. I mean, there's steps and a process to this for people. Al said, "Poor puppy." Well, he's feeling pretty pretty good otherwise. And when a dog gets a hot spot, it's so frustrating. And actually, we now know it's more dangerous to their health if not taken care of swiftly. I had a cat that had constant hot spots and ended up with cancer. So when and I had another dog that had a lot of hot spots, but she didn't get cancer. But I jumped on that one right away. And in this day and age, you can't even see the vet. It's difficult. But I sent her pictures, and then she drags me. No offense against the vet, but she drags me into another. It was a $51 video on Skype that we didn't need to have because I sent the pictures. But hey, she has to make her living too. And then she didn't get to really see him then anyway because I couldn't really get but she had the pictures. So we got the cream, we got the antibiotics, and the only thing is I don't know. I have to ask the vet one more time. I'm not clear if it could have anything to do with his other conditions. He's had a few other health issues go on recently, but he's much better now. But once they have a hot spot, and knowing his neuroticism, it's likely it's not going to be his last. And so yeah, he's going to stay in that. But when I take that collar off and we go do stuff, and he doesn't really play with my other dog, they don't like each other. But when it's time to eat and stuff, like he gets super excited. He jumps around. He's a happy dog when I'm petting him, when we're goofing around together. So you owe it to everyone who loves you to be the best version of yourself. Yes. Saying that to Elle and to anyone else it might apply to, or who might resonate with that, relate to that. And then Victor said, I've learned to love to suffer. Suffering can lead to growth. I'll never let anyone break my boundaries again. Way to go, Victor. I love it when people like you come back and to a live stream after a while, and I've seen you here and there, and when you've been working the process and you're healing, recovering, or recovered, I'm not sure if you finished, but you're in a great place now. And this is really important for other people to see, so that they know, like you're a great example to them, that they know that they too can go from where they are right now to where you are right now in their own journeys. And that's something I don't use those words, Victor, but well said. What I'm trying to say about when there's two choices, choose the most impossible feeling, heart wrenching, adverse choice, which is right now for L would be block that email. Go full no contact, because unless you do, you can't know the benefits of what's going to happen on the other side of that, even though there'll be pain or it could be difficult. So I'm always talking about people with codependency, people after these relationships, in healing from the relationship and or whatever else you need to work on. It's about leaning into your own pain, leaning into your own pain. For people with codependency, it can be just like for people with BPD when they go to therapy. It can be extremely daunting, but the reason it's more daunting, not more daunting than BPD, but daunting for codependents to really get this no contact done is because you're not used to being with you. You're used to externalizing out to other. And so it's exceedingly painful for codependents as they turn in to the focus on self that in the beginning, many people with codependency don't feel that worthy of. They have shame wounds, abandonment wounds. And so it's not easy, but, and it's going to hurt. But as Victor is living proof here, that pain, that suffering that you turn into, well, suffering, people who don't turn into the pain increase their own suffering on top of what the person with BP or cluster B did. And so it's the leaning in and embracing the pain and the radical acceptance of a relationship being over and going and staying no contact, which is not easy and which is painful and everything. But it is the first major step to getting yourself on that healing recovery journey that you need. And so you too can know what Victor knows. What I know too, but what Victor knows tonight. Three Pingu. Sorry, I can't see from here. Not supply, fear of abandonment, do anything to prevent being, quote, left, unquote. Yeah, although it seems like a lot of people with BPD are doing the leaving these days, so, which of course can be fear of abandonment, or fear of engulfment, or something in between. But yeah, I mean, it's not the same as with the narcissist in the way that narcissists need supply. So you're absolutely right. What I said earlier, it is they need that other person quickly to hold this, like not hold self, but give them identity and quote a very weak, not real sense of self. Yeah, it's really important. You'll never see, Victor said, you'll never see something you like if you look back or keep creeping on, and yeah, what I call the stealth reverse Hoover on the social media pages. Right on, Victor. And you said, I got to the point, Victor said, I'll still book a session one day to have a talk. I have a ton to thank you for. Cool, Victor. I would really look forward to that. And for what part I played in helping you, you're welcome. But you've done a lot of work, and you go, man, you go. And Victor said, I can't even go full no contact, and that was awful for me until I made it extreme low contact. Oh, and you went and got a no contact order. I see. And of course, I'm going to have some videos coming soon too, and some other things on my website. Because when children are involved, right, often no contact is impossible, and it has to be low contact. And then, there's a lot of parameters and coping tools and skills around low contact and how to hold those boundaries that the ex is always going to be trying to break. Wayne, I definitely needed to hear that my distorted paradigm isn't actually recovery. Still, I can't beat myself up about it. Oh yeah, no, don't do that. I never want, I'm always saying to people, go easy on yourself, because you're learning. And then you said her punishment and revenge took the form of false accusations that eventually got me kicked out of my home. I'm so sorry. And local community I had invited her into. Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that, Wayne. And you said, one question I have in your experience, how often do people realize or admit to themselves they had their sympathy weaponized and used to prop up someone else's discordant reality? Do you mean people with codependency realizing that? Because there's that side of realizing it. And then there's the people with BPD But I think you're talking about the codependency side. So that's what I was just trying to figure out. Because I think that a lot of people with codependency, it takes a long time to realize that, unfortunately. That, yeah, your sympathy gets weaponized against you and used up, used as a prop, as you put it, to their discordant reality. Yes, they're skewing reality, and yes, they weaponize your sympathy. And I think that it takes people all various different amounts of time. And for some people, as part of the codependency as well, and the denial, and maybe still really trying to rescue them and trying to get the who you thought they were back, etc. But it takes various amounts of time for varying different people, as best I can say in a general sense. And I'm just really sorry to hear that happen to you, because that's another part of BPD abuse, isn't it? For sure. And it's not excusable. And Victor said, I accepted that I was already suffering, so I might as well suffer more doing things that are good for me, like dieting and exercising, getting a new career started, still treat my daughter great. Well, excellent. And the way you're putting that, Victor, is really poignant and succinct and meaningful. And I would just add that when you were, as you state, already suffering, so you thought you might as well suffer more, that's actually when you made a choice to turn your suffering into manageable pain, pain that you would face and heal.